Hi, and welcome to our video on analyzing the numbers. This course will have a lot of the financials in place. Sometimes it's a little hard to follow, especially when you've never done one of these deals. You may need to watch this video over and over, but try to pay close attention to the percentages and how we run those numbers from start to finish. The idea here is that you can do a hard copy or pencil out on a piece of paper the numbers if you don't have an analyzer or your phone near you with some type of analyzer software. So we want you to be able to pencil out the numbers and really understand them, and so that you can come up with a net profit and know when a deal is a good deal versus something we need to walk away from. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Here are categories that are really important to a deal: the purchase price, the buying costs, rehab costs, holding costs, selling cost, and sales price. Now each one of these areas is going to have fees associated with it, and your job is to understand where they go and what those percentages are, memorize them, so that, again, so you can pencil out a deal on paper without the use of technology if needed. Alright, our purchase price, first category. We always use our MAO, our maximum allowable offer. If you recall from our previous classes, that's going to be 75% of the after repair value minus your rehab cost is the maximum allowable offer. That's what we'll pay for the property. Our buying costs are always going to be run at 1% if we're all cash, or 1.3% if we're using a hard money loan. Including in those costs will be points that a hard money lender charges. We're going to have rehab costs, which is another category that we generally run from $35 to $45 a square foot. To be safe, I would run it realistically between $38 and $42 a square foot. If you run it between there, you should be okay. If you want to be a little more conservative, maybe it looks like the property needs more work, then go ahead and use the $45 a square foot and come up with your rehab cost that way. So what that means, if it's a 1,000 square foot house, you run it at $38 a square foot, you get $38,000 in rehab, $40 a square foot, that's $40,000, and so on and so on. Your holding costs. This gets a little tricky to understand without any background in doing loans or having experienced a hard money loan. We'll try to make this simple as time goes by, but basically the simple holding cost is $150 in utilities, and we've just run averages on a lot of the rehabs we've done over the years, and we came real close to that number all the time. For insurance, a real safe number is $200 a month. There are many times it's higher than that. The bigger the property, generally speaking, the higher the replacement cost, and that's what that insurance cost is. Then you have loan payments. A real simple way of looking at this without getting into hard money loans is just run whatever it is the loan would be if it's 80% of purchase price. So let's say you buy a property for $500,000, right? You just take 80% of that, which is 5 times 8, $400,000, and you just factor 12% times that, which is $4,000 a month. 12 is real easy. If it's a $500,000 loan, it's $5,000 a month, $600,000, $6,000 a month. Makes it real simple for adding up those holding costs. Now, selling costs. Selling costs, you're going to have two important factors. Your commissions, which generally speaking, if we are selling it ourselves, we're only going to have to pay out 2.5% to a buyer's agent of the purchase price. If we have to give it back to another realtor, we're going to see it somewhere around 5%, 2.5% per side. And then we're going to pay, instead of up earlier where you see buying costs of 1 to 1.3, we're going to pay a little more this time because we have termite and we have warranty that we have to pay for. So it equals out to 1.5% of the sales price. Then you look at your after repair value, which is your sales price. And then you're going to be able to back out the rest of these. So these numbers right here are what you have to memorize. Okay, you know your MAO, you know your buying cost, just run it at 1.3 most of the time. An old school way of doing this, which is real simple, is 2%, but I rarely see where we've ever paid 2% in closing costs. Now, if you're a traditional buyer with a loan, you're using an FHA loan, you're going to be around 2%. But on these cash deals, we end up with some lower closing costs. Understand points are tied to hard money loans. All right. These holding costs at $150 and $200 for utilities insurance are pretty standard. And it just depends on how we're getting rid of the property. If we're selling it ourselves, 2.5%. If we're using agents, 5%. Closing costs always 1.5%. Let's give you some real numbers so you can understand this. Gloria White's a property we did in Lakewood, and if you look, our purchase price was $385. Our MAO would have been a little lower than this, but it still worked out to be a good deal. Again, we'll look at the MAO, makes sense, we'll wiggle a little bit on it. A lot of it depends on if we can sell it ourselves and things like that. So, if we look at our situation here, our buying costs were $11,600. That includes our hard money loan at $280,000. But the cost we're looking at is the 2% origination, which is our points. Remember, points fall under buying costs. So 2% of the 280 is $5,600. Sometimes hard money comes with these junk fees. As you can see here, you have a $495 appraisal fee, $500 processing. So $995 are equivalent to $1,000. And then we're always going to run it with hard money at 1.3% of purchase price for our buying cost on the closing cost part of it. So 1.3% of $385,000 is $5,005. And those numbers together equal $11,600. The rehab on this was 1,500 square feet, so came out to $60,000. Holding cost. Remember, we have our loan payments, insurance, and utilities that equal our holding costs. Here we have loan 1 at $280,000 at 9.99%. That equals $23.31 a month. Loan 2 is $200,000 at 12%, which makes it very simple. It's just $2,000 a month. So our total monthly loan payments are $43.31. Those two numbers combined. Multiply that by 5 because it was held for 5 months. Gives you our total holding costs on the loan payments. Insurance we're running at $200, and utilities at $150. So those numbers combined at 5 months equal $23,405 in holding costs. Selling costs, selling commission plus your 1.5%. Here we were able to get away with 1%. Sometimes that happens. Selling cost commission were 2.5% because we sold it ourselves. We didn't have to use another agent. So we just had to pay the agent that brought the client to buy it. 2.5% of $575 is $14,375, and we were able to get away with 1% of our sales price, so $5,750. Those combined equal $20,125. So here's what you need to figure out. What is your net profit? So it's real simple when you have loans because those become your liens. So our two loans are $280,000 for loan 1, loan 2 is $200,000, as you can see here. Okay, and if you back out the liens, $575,000 minus the $480,000 in loans equals $95,000, minus your selling costs of $20,125, which is your commissions and your 1% of the selling price, for a total profit of $74,875, as you see in the call out here. Now, here's some real numbers for you to look at. This is a financial statement on a purchase of a property that we did in Costa Mesa. Purchase price is $475,000, $10,000 deposit. These are the numbers you really want to look at. Now, this is all cash. All right. So in all cash, you're going to have some lower fees. You're going to have your title and escrow fees. And then there's the padding. So this is actually probably going to be $400 less. So it'll be closer to $1,875. So if you take that lower number, the $2,275, and you divide it by $455,000, that's about 0.5%. It's not even 1. Let's look at another one. This is a property that we did in Long Beach, but this one has a loan tied to it. So let's compare what it's like with a loan or without. So here we have the origination charge, the lender's inspection fee, which is the appraisal, broker fees, and interest, $2,075. So really the 2 points is 2 times 440,000, which is 880, and you can tell they broke that up here between this origination and then what they called a broker fee. So 6,600 and the 2,200 equal those points that we talked about earlier. Now, normally we don't have our insurance on this. We pay it outside of escrow. This time it was included. So we're not going to use that number because we talked about it before where it's $200 a month. Remember, we always want to get a binder, always, because that saves us in title insurance costs. So these numbers here, all the way down here with escrow and title equal $2,765. So if we look at our purchase price of $545, you're still looking at 0.5% there. Where the numbers go up is here with the origination. That'll eat you up right there. Now look, so $2,765 with a hard money loan. Without hard money, all cash, $2,159. So once again, $2,765 to $2,159. So you save a lot of money if you can go all cash. And this is very little fees. Escrow $1,650, and there's your title. And $300 of this is a pad, so it actually could be even lower. This is an email we received on a property, and the question I want you to ask yourself right now is this a good deal? Would you do this deal? I want you to kind of think about that right now. So here's the email. We have an under contract ready to assign an REO property. So just know REOs are not assignable. So this wholesaler doesn't know what they're talking about. You can't assign an REO. It's very specific language in the contract states you can't. It's not listed on the MLS, which doesn't change that fact. It's a 3-2, 1,350 square foot home, nice working neighborhood there in Santa Ana. It's occupied, no showings, delivered vacant. When it's occupied, no showings, that just means they have it under contract. They can't let you in there to see it because it'll blow their cover. Usually that's what that means. So they came up with an ARV of $575, remodel budget $45, which for 1,350 square feet, it's doable. Might be a little low, but it's probably doable. Purchase price $450,000. Contact me if interested. So let's look at these numbers. So we have our purchase price of $450. We're going to assume, if we're going all cash, we're going to do 1% of the $450 or $4,500. They told us that the rehab costs were $45,000. We know our holding costs are $150 a month in utility costs, $200 in insurance, and we got the sales costs. Let's assume that we're going to use agents, 5% of $575, and then closing costs at 1.5%, like we stated earlier. Sales price of $575. So let's back this out and see if it's a good deal. Bought it for $450. We got that buying cost, the 1% of the purchase price. We got rehab costs at $45. We have some holding costs for insurance and utilities. We're going to sell at 5% plus 1.5% for our closing costs. So that's a total of 6.5. So let's back it out. We sell it for $575. We back out our selling costs, which are here, the $37,375. That leaves $537,625. We back out our holding costs, which is $2,100. That leaves $535,525. We spent $45,000 on rehab. We got to subtract that. That leaves $490,525. Subtract our buying costs, which was 1%. That leaves $46,025. And then we subtract our purchase price. Got to back out that $450. That leaves $36,025. So when I asked you if this is a good deal, I want you to tell me right now, how long does it take you? How many hours do you currently have to work right now to make $36,000? Imagine having 4 to 5 of these going at the same time. So is it a good deal? Profit's $36.25. Not bad, huh? But imagine if you had to pay a holding cost, which most of you will. So if you figure, let's back this out. Let's figure you're going to borrow about $500,000 on this. You got $450 purchase plus $45,000 rehab. You got some buying costs, some holding costs. If you only make $36,000 and you put up $500,000, that's only about a 7% return on investment. In our industry, that's very, very dangerous. It's very low. We're looking at Fortune Weavers for about a 12% cash-on-cash return. So this thing's about 5% off. So to find that ROI, you take your purchase price, you add your buying costs, you add your rehab, your holding, that equals that 5016. And you divide that by the 36,000, the profit by that number, and that gives you your 7% ROI. Yeah, imagine out of that 36,000 if you had some holding costs. You know, if we were borrowing $500,000 at $5,000 a month and it went 6 months, that's 30 grand. That would leave you, the flipper who did all the work, put all your sweat equity into it, was $6,000. I don't know about you, but I don't want to work for free. Here's a copy of the analyzer. This is what you'll get next, and this is a proprietary product that we came up with, and just gives you kind of the best of all worlds. So you have your input data here, gives you your data on this side, and then what it does is it gives you what you'll make. You have to pay attention to your net profit here on hard money. Most of you will be using hard money. You'll have a gap investor that'll kind of fill the difference for rehab, the down payment, and the holding costs. Or you'll have a private money investor at 12%, or maybe someone wants to put up all the money and get a 50% profit margin. So this kind of gives you all three of those. Again, we have a video that will explain the analyzer, but it's just a nice piece of software that kind of guides you on whether a deal is good or not. Now, when you send deals to us in the future, you're going to include the analyzer with it, along with your comps. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, an iOS product, Property Fixer Pro is a great little analyzer tool. I use this all the time. You know, I don't always have time to take out my computer and run the analyzer, so I can do it on the fly on my iPhone with this, come up with my profit margin, give someone an answer quickly because speed is important. And it's about, I think it's $40. There's a free version for one property, but I like the one that has all the bells and whistles, and I can add and subtract different things. So for $40, great tool for the business. That's all we have. So just remember a few things, just in retrospect. You have your purchase price, which is your MAO, your buying costs, which are generally going to be a 1.3% because you're going to be using hard money. All cash is 1% of your sales or your purchase price. You're going to have your holding costs, which is your loan payments, your insurance costs, and your utility costs. Then you're going to have your rehab costs. Then you're going to have your selling costs. Your selling costs are going to be your commissions to your realtors, and 1.5% of your sales price that will be taken out. And the reason why it's higher is because of the warranty fees, the termite, and things of that nature. So hopefully that helps, and you can understand those areas so that when you run numbers, you can use an analyzer, but if you had to do it on paper out in the field, you could just break it down for yourself. All right, look forward to your next class, and we will talk later.